Hey, what's up guys? Just want to do a quick video on a news article. But before I get there, let me tell you the backstory. So recently, several weeks ago, I was in Arizona speaking at an event, and I was requested to do an interview for Bloomberg. And a gentleman named Michael reached out to me because he was referenced to me from somebody else that was in the article. Now, I don't really have too much problems with the article. Be frank, I probably will never agree 100% with somebody else writes. And this article is not that terrible. It's not that bad, or it doesn't shine such a terrible light onto wholesalers. But the name of this article is Fast Cash House Flippers Flood Poor Neighborhoods in the US. And so the title is obviously made to grab people's attention. And I don't think that it's a fair title at all, but let's move forward with the article. And so the article starts like this: states and cities in the US are cracking down on a niche in house flipping known as wholesaling, conducted by a flood of largely unlicensed middlemen lured in by YouTube tutorials and a torrid market. And so the opening line is a catch, and he's correct. Cities and states are trying to crack down on wholesaling in general, and middlemen, most investors are not licensed. I would say largely 90% of people who own rental properties or invest into properties to flip are not licensed. And also wholesalers really don't make more money in a torrid market, AKA a hot market. It's more of a slower market where most wholesalers make most of their monies because prices are not so exaggerated. For example, right now, the inventory of homes are very low. So now you have buyers overpaying for price of homes that are on the market. And you even have buyers now who are looking at properties they would not look at before. They're looking at properties that they can buy to even fix up themselves, which in a regular market, they wouldn't take that time. But going into this article, I was interviewed. This interview was probably 15, 20 minutes long, and I have a full video of my interview with it. But one of my problems with the article is that I was interviewed for this article, but because my narrative and how I articulate how wholesaling and real estate, what part we play in real estate investing, didn't really fit the article, I was completely omitted from the article. No problem. They have the right to write their own article. The problem is I compared wholesaling to a lot of other industries and even talked about some of the big giants and a lot of the Wall Street money, such as, coming from places like, these cash offer places, big, like your OfferPads and your Zillows and your Redfins. They're all doing the same exact thing, but they're using Wall Street money in order to capture some of these properties and either sell them as wholesales or flip them themselves. And you're seeing a lot more bigger investors, or you're seeing just overall general, you're seeing Wall Street money getting into the same type of niche investing and real estate practices that a lot of us are doing. Now, what I would say about this article is that it's a mild article. It's not really, putting too much of a bad light on wholesalers. It does a little bit, but not as harsh as some of these other people would like to write about it. Now, Michael has his own opinion, and he's gathered that from his research and talking with people. But the main reason I want to do this video is because you need to understand that as a wholesaler, cities and states are coming after you because there are a few bad apples within any industry, like I talked about when I interviewed with Michael. But particularly they're going after wholesalers. I don't know why. You can form your own opinion as to why they're doing that when there's many other industries that do the same exact thing as far as buy low and sell high, whatever. And I make a lot of references to that in the video. The thing is you guys need to be fair, be transparent when you're in this business. And that goes for any real estate investing business you're in. Sometimes customers can get mad for whatever reason and be the loudest. I also reference how you can sell your car trade in your car at a car lot for not $5,000, and in a few days it's listed for $7,000 or $8,000 on a like an auction, or it goes for $8,000 at auction. You don't call the dealership back and say, hey, I see that you sold the car for more than I gave it to you for. I'm gonna need some extra money, or what you're doing is not right. So I stress you guys to read this article, which I will put in the link below, in the description below. But I also want you to watch this full unedited video of me speaking with Michael and giving my opinion on the industry of wholesaling and flippers and real estate investors, because people are coming for you. So you need to be very transparent. And if you know any bad apples, get rid of them, call them out, and let the industry know let them know that the industry doesn't appreciate any bad apples, which I'm sure in any industry, the good people don't appreciate bad apples. So read this article, watch the full video, the interview that I did with Michael, and then in the comments below, tell me what you think. What is your opinion after reading the article and then listening to this video? And maybe next time somebody calls me to do an interview, they may actually put some of my thoughts inside the interview itself, but I understand why they didn't, because my interview really didn't fit the narrative that they wanted to push in this article. So watch this, tell me what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. My financial journey is, being broke, moving back home with my mother, and trying to figure out my way to back in. I used to be a licensed real estate agent, and this was before the crash, and the crash happened. So, I wanted to get back into real estate.
The crash meaning the the Great Recession, like 2007?
Yeah, 2007, 2008. And so when that happened, being a young man, I'm thinking the world's going to end. I have no idea. So at that point, I kind of stopped being a real estate guy and went into some other things. But for me, I know I wanted to get back into real estate, but I didn't have the money. And so I found a niche, which is wholesaling real estate, and I started to document my journey online, and then people just started watching. And so when I learned about wholesaling, it was kind of hidden, in the sense that the elite guys were already doing it, but it was behind a paywall, in a sense. Like they were selling courses and those type of things. And
who are the elite guys mean? Like what do you mean?
Like your Sean Terry. Sean Terry's the guy who I kind of learned from. Sean Terry's an elite guy. You got there was a whole podcast at one time called Wholesaling Inc. And they're another elite, and they were training people. They train stuff. And so when I learned wholesaling, I was intrigued by it. I had real estate knowledge already, and it was just like, this is a perfect fit for me. And so as I grew in it, my channel grew. I started to document more and more what I was doing. I wasn't selling anything. I was just showing people what was possible. And so that's how the channel took off and started growing. And kind of haven't stopped since. And so partly, I'm the reason for maybe a lot of people getting into wholesaling, because there wasn't many people that looked like me that thought it was even possible to get into real estate, because we're not taught anything about real estate. And so more
being black, or what do you mean?
Yeah, African American people were just we're not known to be in real estate, period, as owners or as investors. And so that's where my core audience started to grow, and then younger people started to say, well, I can get into real estate as well. And so wholesaling is really, for lack of better terms, like the gateway drug into real estate investing. It shows you the grassroots, how to find a good deal, how to locate property, how to evaluate property. And so as it grew, more and more people started getting into it. And it's for me, my first year in wholesaling, I recovered over $300,000 worth of unpaid taxes to the city, only because I would go after homes that didn't pay taxes for several years, to contact the owner to say, what are you doing with this property? And it's just sitting there, whether they inherited it, whether they moved, whatever their personal scenario was, they were just letting it go to crap. And that allowed for flippers to find inventory to flip. I didn't have the money to flip, but I knew the knowledge of how to find these properties, and so we would find them for flippers and then get paid for selling our contract to that deal. And that's where the term wholesaling, you're wholesaling a piece of paper to the person that wants to finish the contract or see the contract out.
You're in Winston Salem, North Carolina. Is that kind of your base?
Correct. Yes.
So when you were wholesaling and just getting into things, was it primarily in Winston Salem?
So Winston Salem, Greensboro, and High Point, we call it the Triad. So it's 2 counties and 3 cities.
Is it true today that I'm just understanding? There's a woman here in Atlanta where I am who says that she does wholesaling, and she does it exclusively virtually. I mean, she's in Atlanta, and every deal she puts together is in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And she tells me she doesn't even go to these. She just never even goes to the property. I mean, is that a thing? I'm just curious what percentage of wholesaling is done this way nowadays.
I would say most people are in their home city, home state, but there's probably 30 to 40% of people that do it virtually because, one, their market is too expensive, such as LA, New York, even Phoenix, and a lot of your bigger cities, or their cities too small to where there's not enough opportunity. But thanks to softwares like PropStream, you're able to see who's not paying taxes, see why, because there's almost 18 million vacant houses in America, and so that's our prime candidate of people that we try to locate and talk to. Is there's 18 million homes, there's 18 million opportunities, and so we're just a part of the cycle of creating more properties to come online and creating more revenue for the city, because most cities operate solely off of real estate taxes. And so when these houses are sitting, they're not generating the revenue that they're supposed to be getting.
So what's your business now? Are you primarily selling, expertise, or are you still wholesaling property? And how do you make your money nowadays?
Yeah, so I have a 8,000 square foot office in Winston Salem. And we primarily do, I would say it's about 50-50. Between wholesaling is 50%, and the other 50% is rehab, so flips. And then we do new construction. Just because, wholesaling is the gateway into actual real estate investing. And so once you get your money and you start to learn, financial literacy, you start to invest into these properties and flip them, and then, create rental properties. And, and if you have the will and the power, you start to build new homes. And it's just, the whole thing is, can you find a property that's worth investing in, whether it's a piece of land or a property that needs to be rehabbed and put back on the market. And so my business is, I would say overall, I'm 50% real estate and 50% brand, and I also, I have a software that we created along the way.
So you do, how does that work? You're selling, it doesn't cost anything to watch your YouTube videos, so then you do what? You sell access to videos, or something behind a paywall, or how does that work?
Primarily I get speaking fees. I have endorsements with other companies that have they have interest in real estate. They have real estate products, and because I have the audience, they pay me to talk about their products, and all of it's products like I use. So you're talking, I have things coming up with Rocket Mortgage, Next Insurance, PropStream is a big client of mine, and that's how I get a lot of the brand money. And then I speak, so people hold real estate events, and I charge a fee to speak at events, and that's my brand side of the money. And then YouTube has you generate revenue from YouTube as well.
What do you make of you may be aware there are certain states that have I think the evolution was Illinois may have been the first state to require wholesalers to get a real estate license. Mm-hmm. I think Philadelphia now in the last year, about a year ago, started regulating it, wanting licensure for wholesalers, and now I understand Arkansas, has done the same, and Kansas and Oklahoma have pending legislation. It's not yet passed, and most of them, I've talked to like three of these states, and they're telling me they're hearing complaints. Often the complaint is some kind of lack of transparency, that wholesalers are not necessarily upfront about what they're doing. They may often hold themselves out as the end buyer. They're taking title of these properties, and when in actuality, in most cases, they're not. They're just signing a contract, and that winds up upsetting the seller. Other times, there's complaints about that somebody walks away from it. There's a perception there's more just kind of walking away from the deal and leaving a seller hanging than some other real estate. Can you speak about that? I mean, is this not getting a bad name, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think anything that grows, you start to find maybe bad actors in it, but I think it's truly like who tells the story. I mean, when you get a mortgage, the mortgage company doesn't tell you that, hey, we're going to sell this mortgage for X amount of dollars in 30 days. You're just happy to get the mortgage and happy to get the house. So when somebody negotiates a price on a house, just because they're going to make money from, selling this house or selling the contract, it may upset people, but you don't see that across the board. You go trade in your car for X amount of value, within a certain amount of days, it's gone to the auction and they sell it for more. You don't call the dealership back and say, look, I see my car on the auction site, and you got $3,000 more than and I sold it to you for. So I think it has to be kind of like, it's who tells the story. And are there bad actors? Yeah, there's bad doctors, there's lawyers that lose their license every day. But you can approach it with a hatchet, or you can go at it with a scalpel. And so I think there's because we have a lack of real estate agents have realtors, so they have an association that protects their interest, and so that's the main body behind pushing regulation, because they feel like they're losing money by not being able to list these properties. And I'll be frank with you, as a former realtor, you don't go after these properties with busted windows and missing, it's hasn't been updated in 30 years. Most people know if you call an agent to sell your home, in a regular market, they're going to say, hey, look, we want you to do updates on this, this, and this, and this. And so I would say roughly 95% of properties get sold through the traditional way, which is an agent or for sale by owner. And then there's houses that don't meet that category. And so, a realtor won't even list a house with hazards in it, because they're not going to take the risk of having the house being shown and being held liability because somebody fell through the kitchen floor. And so it's kind of how you tell the story. Are there bad apples? Absolutely. Do I feel like there should be some type of regulation? It's kind of hard to say, because I don't know the intentions behind the people creating the legislation.
Let's catch up for a second. What do you tell what do you tell people you're counseling? Because I did watch one of your videos. It was from 2019. It's like a 20-minute video. It's a guy named Casey. I guess he must have worked for you, and you were kind of relating the recording of him trying to get a homeowner to list his property, and it was not clear to me from that recording that Casey was being upfront about, this is I'm just looking to get this under contract, and then we're going to sell the contract. I mean, I don't know what the owner knew or what he didn't know. It wasn't clear to me though that was made clear. Do your people do that, and what do you counsel them with that respect?
So I can't recall the exact video with much, but so we're very transparent with the seller of the home. We tell them we're investors and we're in this to make a profit. And so we never say, hey, we're your only option. Our actual selling tactics and our tactics to try to buy these homes is we try to tell people all their options. Because there's other, if your house is in good condition and you want to get the most money for it, then you probably need to list it with a real estate agent and allow them to go to get the fair market value for it. And so what we're doing is saying, hey, look, I'm going to buy your property at X, and 50% of the time our company will buy it. The other 50% of the time I may assign it to another flipper that needs inventory or is wanting to move forward with another flip. And so we never try to deceive nobody. That's definitely not the culture that we have. And I actually have a video called The Ethics of Wholesaling, or Is Wholesaling Unethical? And so that video, I go out and I have a full video on how you should not do this business and how you should not take advantage of people. There's been many conversations with potential sellers that we say, we're not your best option here. And then these are people that are even maybe losing their house and don't know the process of foreclosure because there's a lack of transparency on that, to where they think just because they got a letter and a foreclosure date set that they don't own their home anymore. Like, no, you have options with your home. And so we try to counsel our potential seller that, hey, you have options, and sometimes we're your best. I mean, it's no different than taking a TV to the pawn shop. It's necessary at certain times in people's lives. Are you going to get the best price or the fair market value for that TV? Absolutely not, because the pawn shop has to turn around and sell it, because that's the business they're in.
What's your sense of how many, as I said at the outset, it's really hard to know how many people are doing this. Rob at PropStream seems to think it's really surged in the last 3 years, and he's not even sure why, but he just gets the sense from the number of people tapping PropStream and using his service. You're doing this every day. What are you seeing? Is it just more visibility, or are there more people doing this?
I think there's a combination of both. There's definitely more visibility on the topic itself. And then Rob would probably have more accurate numbers. There's visibility, and then now everybody is into real estate, stocks, and investing. I think you're coming across a new generation that is more, they're wanting to be more financially fit, more financially literate. So these conversations online that are happening all across the board is, are you investing in real estate? Or do you have a rental portfolio? Are you investing in stocks or crypto or whatever their thing is? I think we're just a generation that information's available now, and there's little paywall, or if any, to get information on how to do these things. So people are, they're buckling down and they're saying, how can I set my family up for financial freedom? How can I get a piece of America? How could I join the conversation? And so I think that's a big part of it, is you're having, and particularly in the African American community, a lot of people are saying, how can we be a part of this conversation? How can we help stop or slow down gentrification? How can I buy this home that my grandmother's been in for 30 years that she doesn't own? And so those are the conversations that are happening amongst our communities, and people are waking up to that they can now be a part of this whole society that we live in.
We use this gentrification. What I hear is complaints actually that real estate investors, and most often they're talking about flippers, but I assume they mean wholesalers as well. Is the complaint is that real estate investors are the ones fueling gentrification, and they're the ones that are causing properties to shoot up and for people to not be able to afford their property taxes and whatnot.
Gentrification for me is not really a bad word unless you don't own. And so what I try to tell people is ownership. Because when you have ownership, you have options. But you don't have an option when you live in a neighborhood that you lived in, your whole family's lived there for 30, 40 years, but you don't own anything. Yes, the neighborhood's going to change. Everything evolves and gets better. But if you own a part of what's evolving, you have an option to either stay, sell, or go. It's up to you. And so my big thing is financial literacy overall. Gentrification is going to happen. It's a thing that we can't stop. but you have to be on the right side of gentrification, if that makes sense.
And finally, what does it cost? Take me through the fees that you charge for. You can make some of your money, brand money and whatnot, through deals with PropStream, and you mentioned Rocket Mortgage, but I assume you sell courses. Or I think this gentleman, this fellow I met here in Atlanta, referred me to you, and he had launched one of your courses. I think he said he spent $500 or something. What does a Maxwell wholesale course cost?
Yeah, so in October I recently put out a course for $500 to teach the basics of how to identify properties that how do you identify one of the 18 million vacant properties, what resources do we use, and how to go about investing into your first property. So everything from not knowing anything to how to consistently go out there and find deals that you can invest in. And so it is $500, but prior to that, for 3 years, I put out videos with the same exact content. And so the reason why, we decided to put out a teachable type content is because not everybody can go out and grab information from individual videos and piece together their own success. Some people are true students and like to be learned and instructed in a certain way. So we decided to put that out there and allow people to be able to consume the content in that way. And a lot of it's regurgitated videos, or even the same exact videos that are in it, but it's put in a manner that they can look at a curriculum and follow it step by step to be able to achieve what they want to achieve.
All right, Max, how old a man are you?
I'm 36.
Lives in Winston Salem area?
Yes, sir.
Your corporate entity, is that what is the name of your company, I guess?
Venture Atlas.
And finally, one of my editors, as I was talking with him, Bloomberg is a big wall. We have a lot of readers on Wall Street. We have corporate executives and different investors and whatnot. So there's a large interest in investment and kind of what kind of Wall Street money is behind this.
A lot.
I'm aware there's like a lot of Wall Street money pouring into flipping in some fashion. I think some of the hard money lenders, and here in Atlanta we have a firm called Ground Floor that provides money to flippers. I think a fair number of those are getting money from banks in Wall Street. How does money flow? I mean, is there money, Wall Street money, or institutional money flowing into wholesaling, or is it?
Absolutely.
Or how does that work? I was going to ask PropStream if they have any Wall Street or venture capital money or whatnot.
Yeah. So from my knowledge, PropStream is self-funded, but there's definitely Wall Street money involved in wholesaling. If you look at companies like Open Door, OfferPad, even Zillow Offers, that's all that they're wholesalers, and so they just do it with the money from Wall Street. And so, single family homes has become a new asset class again, that investors in Wall Street are interested in investing in. And frankly, that's how, anywhere money is, that's where Wall Street's going to go. And so you have the mom and pop shops, the individuals that go out and wholesale and invest and flip properties. And then you have companies like Open Door that have raised billions of dollars to go out and do the same thing from an algorithm from an office in San Francisco. And you can listen to radio or TV and you'll see them. And so then you have Wall Street money that sends money to hard money lenders that borrow at a certain rate and then sell at a certain rate plus points. And so it's Wall Street is heavily invested into single family asset class, flipping, and all of that stuff like that.
Okay. Well, Max, that's all I need. I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, sir.